With the recent investigation by the CDC, U.S. Food and Drug Administration, as well as state and local health departments into the outbreak of severe pulmonary disease associated with e-cigarette products, it's important to know what vaping is and the risks associated with it, especially with the start of a new school year in full swing. And joining us once again today is Dr. Stephanie Hansen, a pediatrician at Sanford Health. Always great to have you here. I always start with, these are great conversations because as a parent, it's hard to keep up, and vaping always in the news. But for parents who feel like they're just a little behind because they didn't deal with vaping when they were young, what is vaping and how did it all of a sudden become such a mainstream thing?
Yeah, so vaping was originally sort of developed as an alternative to smoking cigarettes, and even was marketed a bit to help people quit smoking cigarettes. It's a small handheld device, oftentimes looks like a little USB stick or something similar to that uses a liquid cartridge as a delivery for nicotine.
Okay, so it sounds like it maybe didn't have, a bad reason for getting started, but we're talking about kids vaping. Is that just because kids want to do what adults are doing? This is an issue now.
Well, there's some of that, but also, these devices look cool. The liquid often has a fruity scent or flavor to it, and I think teens have the misperception that this is a safer alternative to cigarettes, and we know now that that's not true.
Talk a little bit more about that, because you're right, it is fruity and almost candy-like. That seems like it would be targeted at younger people versus older people.
Yeah, so the companies that manufacture e-cigarettes have come under scrutiny for that very reason, saying, they're making these devices that are attractive to children, and that's really not the market that they should be looking for. These do have risks associated with them. They are addictive. The device itself can have mechanical malfunction, so causing explosions or burns. And then we've seen recently now with this outbreak of severe pulmonary disease that this absolutely has effects on lungs.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about that. It's dangerous.
Yeah, so over half of the states in our nation now have reported cases where adolescents or young adults have had a severe life-threatening pulmonary illness related to vaping.
So what do parents need to know?
Be aware of what your kids are doing. Talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping. Again, there's this misperception that this is somehow safer than using cigarettes, that this is a more socially acceptable form of nicotine use, and that's really just not true.
And also, I don't know, as far as doctors tracing this and tracking this, but, schools, we're definitely hearing about this. It's tricky sometimes to spot them.
It really is, because it doesn't have the odor associated with it that cigarettes do. It's much more stealthy. I talk to kids all the time when they come in for their checkups, adolescents and teenagers, and say, how many kids in your school are vaping? And they're telling me like 70, 80, 90% of kids have tried vaping or are vaping regularly. So this is a problem in our community. Okay.
Besides the major concerns of some major issues to your lungs, there are some other risks as well that you have listed for us.
These addictive substances, we really don't know the effect they have on the developing brain, but we have some pretty good evidence that they affect your impulse control, your risk for future addiction, and just can impair your focus and concentration as well. A growing brain is different than a fully mature adult brain, and when you're exposing it to these chemicals, you're kind of rolling the dice. You don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and we're talking about kids. These are, that's who we're most concerned about, right?
Absolutely.
What is the youngest age you've heard of?
Oh, middle school kids, 10, 11, 12 years old, definitely have access to e-cigarettes and are vaping, either from older friends or siblings, so it's out there.
Okay, and so even if they just are trying it a couple times, can it do damage?
It absolutely can. We know that nicotine is addictive, and the younger you are with your first exposure, the more addictive it can be.
Okay, this graphic that we have up on the screen right now is talking about the chemicals that can damage your respiratory systems. I mean, something that's found in car exhaust is what you're putting into your body. This would be a good example to talk to your children about. That's the whole point, too. Talk to your children, right?
Absolutely, talk to your children.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. It's always great to kind of break down these trends that our kids are more up to speed on sometimes than parents are. Dr. Hansen, thank you so much for coming in. Stay with us. Coming up next on North Dakota Today, Bethany Retirement Living is celebrating 80 years of service, and they're celebrating in style. We'll tell you all about it next.